High Counselor Draz massaged his three temples as the emergency session of the Galactic Council stretched into its fourth rotation. The vast amphitheater, designed to accommodate representatives from over 3,000 civilizations, buzzed with anxiety. Holograms flickered above the central podium, displaying the latest footage from Earth. Humans landing on Mars, establishing their first permanent lunar colony, and most alarmingly, successfully testing their first prototype. FTL drive. Order! Draz's voice boomed through the chamber. We must reach a decision before these humans stumble into interstellar space and cause an incident. Representative Cole of the Rigelian Confederation rose on his gravity platform. May I remind the Council that merely 50 of their years ago, these creatures were barely capable of reaching their own moon. The acceleration of their technological development is unprecedented and terrifying, added Ambassador Lupa, her tendrils waving in agitation. They've developed technology in decades that took most of us millennia. They went from atmospheric flight to space travel in less than a century. The Council's chief, xenopsychologist Dr. Mira, stepped forward. A small figure with iridescent skin, she had spent the equivalent of 30 Earth years studying human behavior patterns remotely. Distinguished colleagues, she began, I believe we are approaching this all wrong. Yes, humans are advancing rapidly, but that's not what makes them dangerous. It's their combination of curiosity, tenacity, and what they call spite. They routinely accomplish tasks specifically because someone suggested they couldn't. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Furthermore, Dr. Mira continued, projecting a series of human historical events. They have a peculiar psychology. They form emotional bonds with their exploration machines. They name their weapons. They anthropomorphize everything from celestial bodies to cleaning appliances. Ambassador Joth of the Silicon Collective, himself a synthetic intelligence, interjected. I've analyzed their global information network. Humans consistently display deep emotional attachments to fictional scenarios that haven't occurred and never will. They call it entertainment. They willingly experience emotional distress for pleasure. High Counselor Draz looked disturbed. Are you suggesting they're all mentally unstable? Not at all, Dr. Mira replied. I'm suggesting they're unlike any species we've encountered. They simultaneously wage war and send aid to their enemies. They risk their lives for non-sapient animal companions. And most relevantly to our discussion, they do not react to superior force the way other species do. The chamber fell silent as Dr. Mira projected her most controversial finding. Based on my analysis of human historical patterns, if this council attempts to contain or restrict humanity through a show of force or technological superiority, they will not respond with appropriate awe or submission. They will respond with determination to surpass us, possibly within decades. Preposterous, shouted Representative Vrill. No species could advance that quickly. Dr. Mira's voice remained calm. No other species has evolved on a Class 5 death world with such extreme environmental variations and predatory pressures. No other species developed nuclear weapons before developing reliable food distribution systems. Humans are... She paused, searching for the right word. Anomalous. High Counselor Draz looked around the chamber. Then what do you propose, Doctor? We cannot allow an unpredictable species with their aggression levels and resource consumption patterns to simply burst onto the galactic stage. Dr. Mira's expression was grave. I propose something the Council has never done in its 50,000 years of existence. I propose we initiate first contact before they are technically ready. And I propose we greet them with respect, as equals, despite their technological inferiority. The chamber erupted in chaos. Absolutely not. Ambassador Trell's scales flushed a bright crimson. The protocols for first contact have been established for eons. Species must demonstrate both technological readiness and societal cohesion. Dr. Mira remained resolute. With respect, Ambassador, those protocols were designed for species that follow predictable developmental patterns. Humans will achieve interstellar travel within a decade, ready or not. The Council had broken into factions. Some demanded immediate quarantine of the Sol system. Others suggested covert technological sabotage to slow human development. A small, but vocal minority even proposed the unthinkable, preemptive militarization of the sector. High Counselor Draz called for silence. We have monitored thousands of emergent civilizations. Never have we compromised our first contact protocols. And never, Dr. Mira countered, have we encountered a species that went from atmospheric flight to viable fusion reactors in under 2 centuries. The standard models simply don't apply. Director Prath of the Historical Conservation Corps stepped forward. Ancients like Prath rarely spoke at council meetings, but when they did, everyone listened. I have observed 17 species' first steps into the galactic community. Prath's voice was like rustling leaves. Each followed a path thousands of years long, yet these humans— He gestured at the displays showing Earth's rapidly advancing technology. They are aberrant. Their creativity stems from their short lifespans and their constant competition. A strategic visual appeared, showing human military capacity compared to standard Tier 1 civilizations. While primitive in many ways, certain aspects of human warfare had advanced at disturbing rates. Their weaponry development outpaces their medical technology, noted military advisor Jex. They prioritized nuclear weapons over curing their own diseases. They developed global targeting systems before achieving global cooperation. Yet they haven't destroyed themselves, Dr. Mira pointed out, despite multiple near-extinction events of their own making. Ambassador Lupa's tendrils coiled, anxiously. That makes them lucky, not stable. No, Dr. Mira insisted, it makes them resilient, and possibly the most dangerous species we've ever encountered, not despite their flaws, but because of them. The council chamber fell silent as she continued. Humans practice something they call wargaming. They actively try to predict how they would lose conflicts, then adapt accordingly. They intentionally expose themselves to simulated failures. What other species does that? High Counselor Draz looked troubled. Your point, Doctor? My point is that conventional containment won't work. If we try to isolate them, they'll break through. If we try to slow their development, they'll become suspicious and accelerate. If we demonstrate superior technology, they'll simply see it as a challenge. Then what do you suggest? Asked Ambassador Joth. Dr. Mira took a deep breath. We approach them openly, honestly, and with respect. We acknowledge their unique developmental path, and most importantly, we give them a role in the galactic community that channels their particular traits. What role could possibly suit such an unpredictable species? Demanded Representative Cole. Dr. Mira smiled slightly. The humans have a saying, set a thief to catch a thief. I propose we offer them employment as problem solvers. They excel at thinking outside established patterns. They could be invaluable in crisis situations. The chamber erupted again, this time with incredulous objections. You want to reward their recklessness? Ambassador Trell was practically sputtering. No, Dr. Mira replied. I want to harness it before it becomes a threat, and I believe we'll need to establish a specialized department to manage the unique challenges they'll bring. The council chamber had been reconfigured for the 5th day of deliberations. The urgency was palpable. Human test ships were already achieving 0.1c velocities in their solar system's outer reaches. Discovery by other spacefaring civilizations was now a matter of when, not if. Logistics Director Bren had taken the floor, her holographic displays showing probability curves and resource allocations. If we proceed with Dr. Mira's unprecedented proposal, we must establish a new administrative body. The humans will require extensive orientation, cultural exchange programs, and most critically, containment of the disruptive effects they will inevitably cause. You make them sound like a virus, not a sentient species, Dr. Mira objected. With respect, Doctor, Bren replied. Your own data suggests humans react to new situations with what they call breaking things to see how they work. Their scientific method actively encourages proving established knowledge wrong. High Counselor Draz looked weary. Director Bren, what exactly are you proposing? A new council department, she answered promptly. One dedicated specifically to managing human integration, and based on my analysis of likely scenarios, she paused, displaying a complicated flowchart. I recommend we call it the Apology Department. A confused murmur swept through the chamber. The what? Ambassador Lupa's translator might have malfunctioned. The Apology Department, Bren repeated, firmly. Because based on everything we've learned about humans, they will constantly, inevitably, and creatively violate norms they don't understand or agree with. We will constantly be apologizing to the rest of the galactic community on their behalf. Military Advisor Jex leaned forward. That's assuming we allow them to violate our protocols in the first place. Dr. Mira shook her head. You're still thinking of conventional species. Humans don't ask permission. They act, then deal with consequences later. Precisely, affirmed Director Bren. And the data suggests they'll be remarkably useful despite, or because of, this trait. But we need infrastructure to manage the chaos they'll generate. She displayed a new simulation showing potential human contributions to various galactic challenges. The results were impressive, particularly for problems that had stymied conventional approaches for centuries. The Trilaxian energy crisis, she highlighted. Our best models show humans might solve it in under a decade using approaches our engineers consider too risky or unorthodox. At what cost, demanded Representative Vril. Approximately 6 major diplomatic incidents, 13 cultural misunderstandings, and at least 1 accidental violation of sacred space, Bren admitted. Hence, the Apology Department. High Counselor Draz massaged his temples again. This is completely unprecedented. So are humans, Dr. Mira reminded him, and yet the potential benefits. The Council's economic forecaster, Analyst Pohl, stepped forward. My projections suggest humans could increase galactic productivity by 3% within their first century of integration. Their risk tolerance and innovative approaches solve certain categories of problems exponentially faster than our standard methods. But the disruption, Ambassador Trell began, will be significant, Paul acknowledged, yet manageable with proper infrastructure. Director Bren's Apology Department concept, while unorthodox, shows an 86% probability of successfully mitigating the worst side effects while preserving the benefits. High Counselor Draz looked around the chamber. Are we seriously considering this? The silence that followed was broken by Director Prath's ancient voice. In my 17 millennia observing emerging species, I have never advocated breaking protocol. Until now. The humans will reach the stars with or without our guidance. I prefer the former. The Apology Department will need substantial funding and autonomy, Director Bren continued, her efficiency unnerving many council members. But most importantly, it will need the right leadership. All eyes turned to Dr. Mira, who looked suddenly uncomfortable. While I'm flattered, she began, I'm a researcher, not an, you understand them better than anyone, interrupted High Counselor Draz. And they'll need someone who doesn't fear them. The chamber's atmosphere had shifted. What had begun as an emergency response to a potential threat was evolving into something more complex, a reluctant recognition that the galactic community might actually need these unpredictable primates. Ambassador Joth of the Silicon Collective projected a series of statistical analyses. I've processed Dr. Mira's complete research archive on humans. Their problem-solving approach is fundamentally different from established galactic methods. They routinely achieve solutions through what they call lateral thinking, completely circumventing traditional approaches. That's exactly what makes them dangerous, insisted Representative Vril, or invaluable, countered Ambassador Joth. Consider the Andromeda Quarantine Zone. 500 years of conventional approaches have failed to neutralize the biohazard. Humans might solve it in a generation simply because they wouldn't be constrained by our established thinking. Military, Advisor Jex looked skeptical. You're suggesting we expose primitives to the galaxy's most dangerous contamination? I'm suggesting, Ambassador Joth replied calmly, that their unique cognitive patterns might see solutions where we've seen only obstacles. But Ambassador Vril is correct. Unmanaged, these same traits make them extraordinarily dangerous. The debate continued for hours. Finally, High Counselor Draz called for a preliminary vote. We have 3 options before us. First, traditional, quarantine until humans meet all standard criteria for first contact, likely centuries from now. Second, covert intervention to slow their technological development. Or third, Dr. Mira's proposal, proactive contact with the establishment of an apology department to manage their integration. The vote was closer than anyone expected. The final tally showed a narrow margin in favor of Dr. Mira's proposal, with numerous abstentions. Very well, Draz declared. We will proceed with preliminary planning for this apology department. Dr. Mira, you will need to assemble a team immediately. As the session adjourned, Dr. Mira found herself cornered by Ambassador Lupa, whose species was renowned for their intuitive empathy. You didn't tell them everything, did you? Lupa's tendrils waved gently. Dr. Mira hesitated. I told them what they needed to know, but not what you truly fear. It wasn't a question. Dr. Mira sighed. What I fear wouldn't have helped my case. You fear that even with all our preparations we're underestimating them. Wouldn't you? Dr. Mira replied. A species that went from horse-drawn carriages to moon landings in 70 years? That survived multiple nuclear standoffs? That thrives on conflict and turns their greatest disasters into their finest hours? Ambassador Lupa's tendrils drooped slightly. The apology department isn't just to manage them, is it? It's to protect them from us. Dr. Mira smiled sadly. The council sees them as primitive. They're not. They're just different. And yes, I worry what exposure to our technology might do. Not because they couldn't handle it, but because they might improve upon it in ways we can't predict. The preparatory committee for the apology department convened in a secure chamber deep within the council's central hub. Dr. Mira had assembled an eclectic team: xenopsychologists, military strategists, diplomatic corps veterans, and cultural integration specialists. Most controversially, she had included Ambassador Joth, whose silicon-based consciousness offered perspectives organic minds often missed. Our first task, Dr. Mira began, is to define what success looks like. What is the apology department's actual mission? To contain human chaos, offered Strategic Director Kell, a gruff veteran of numerous first contact scenarios. To prevent diplomatic incidents, suggested Liaison Officer Nuri. To protect galactic stability, added Security Chief Vox. Dr. Mira shook her head. Those are defensive postures. If we approach humans as problems to be contained, we'll fail. They're remarkably sensitive to condescension. Ambassador Joth's metallic voice cut through the discussion. The department's purpose is to translate, not just language, but intent. To explain humans to the galaxy and the galaxy to humans. Precisely, Dr. Mira agreed. And to do that, we need to understand what they want. She projected a series of human philosophical texts, scientific achievements, and cultural artifacts. Humans are driven by curiosity, yes, but more fundamentally, they're driven by a need to matter. Their entire civilization is built around proving their significance in what they perceive as an indifferent universe. Officer Nuri looked confused. Surely all sentient species seek meaning. Not like humans, Dr. Mira explained. Most species accept their place in the cosmic order. Humans rage against it. They see limitations as challenges, not boundaries. It's why they've survived on a planet that has tried to kill them countless times. Security Chief Vox frowned. That sounds like a recipe for chaos. It is, Dr. Mira admitted. But it's also their greatest strength. They innovate because they refuse to accept things as they are. The discussion continued for hours as they debated the structure of the unprecedented department. Finally, Ambassador Joth presented a holographic organizational chart. I propose 4 divisions within the apology department. First, cultural interpretation, explaining humans to everyone else. Second, diplomatic intervention, smoothing over the inevitable incidents. Third, innovation management, harnessing human creativity without letting it destabilize established systems. And fourth, most importantly, human advocacy. Advocacy? Security Chief Vox looked alarmed. We're supposed to be managing them, not championing them. That's exactly the attitude that will make this fail, Dr. Mira countered. Humans need to feel respected as partners, not managed as problems. And frankly, they'll need advocates. The galactic community can be rigid. Strategic Director Kell nodded reluctantly. I've seen how we treat outliers. Humans will be the ultimate outliers. Which brings us to our most pressing question, Dr. Mira said. How do we actually approach them? What does first contact look like with a species that's technologically unready but psychologically unsuited to waiting? Ambassador Joth projected a new simulation. I recommend a representative with inherent authority makes contact directly. No intermediaries. No gradual revelation. Humans respect straightforwardness even when the news is difficult. High Counselor Draz, suggested Officer Nuri. Possibly, Joth replied, though someone who can connect with them emotionally might be more effective. All eyes turned to Dr. Mira again. No, she said firmly. I'm a researcher, not a diplomat. You understand them, Kell pointed out. You've studied them for decades. Understanding them doesn't mean I can communicate with them effectively, Dr. Mira protested. Besides, first contact should follow protocol, even if we're bending other rules. Then who? Asked Security Chief Vox. The answer came from an unexpected source. Director Prath, the ancient observer who had championed their cause in the council, appeared at the chamber entrance. I will go, he said simply. The council erupted into chaos when Director Prath announced his intention to make first contact with humanity, personally. As one of the eldest members of galactic society, his willingness to meet these unpredictable primates face-to-face sent shockwaves through the established order. This is highly irregular, objected Ambassador Trell. Director Prath is a living historical treasure. We cannot risk exposing him to a potentially volatile species. Director Prath's ancient eyes surveyed the chamber calmly. I have witnessed 17 species entrance into our community. Each time we have maintained our distance, observed protocol, and gradually introduced them to galactic society. And each time we have created the same result: dependency, deference, species that look to us as elders rather than equals. He gestured toward the displays showing Earth's rapid advancement. These humans will never accept that role. They must be approached differently. High Counselor Draz looked troubled. Even so, the risk is mine to take, Prath finished. My species is long-lived but not immortal. I would rather spend my final millennium on something unprecedented than watching us repeat our patterns. The debate continued for days, but Prath's determination never wavered. Finally, a compromise was reached. Prath would lead the delegation, but would be accompanied by a full diplomatic corps, security detail, and most importantly, Dr. Mira and her newly formed Apology Department staff. Preparations moved with unprecedented speed. The location selected for first contact was a human space station in orbit around their moon, close enough to their homeworld to make them feel secure, yet removed enough to minimize potential incidents. Dr. Mira worked tirelessly with her team to prepare detailed briefings on human psychology, social structures, and potential reaction scenarios. The Apology Department, still technically in its formative stages, was already functioning at full capacity. We need to understand, Dr. Mira instructed her staff, that humans will not react like other species. They will be afraid, yes, but their fear manifests as curiosity, aggression, or both simultaneously. They will ask questions we consider inappropriate. They will make logical leaps we find alarming. How do we prepare for the unpredictable? Asked Liaison Officer Nuri. By accepting that we cannot fully prepare, Dr. Mira replied. The Apology Department exists precisely because humans will surprise us, no matter how thoroughly we plan. The day before the delegation's departure, High Counselor Draz summoned Dr. Mira to a private meeting. Are we making a terrible mistake? He asked bluntly once they were alone. Dr. Mira considered the question carefully. Possibly, but the alternatives are worse. Explain. If we quarantine them, they'll break through eventually, feeling threatened and hostile. If we try to slow their development, they'll detect our interference and become paranoid. Every scenario where we treat them as a problem to be managed ends with them becoming exactly that. Draz nodded slowly. And this apology department, you truly believe it will be sufficient? No, Dr. Mira admitted. It will be inadequate in ways we cannot yet imagine, but it's adaptable. And adaptation is what humans respect most. You've become their advocate, Draz observed. I've become realistic about their potential, both destructive and creative. Draz sighed heavily. The Council is divided on this approach. Many believe we are setting a dangerous precedent. We are, Dr. Mira agreed. But precedents are meant to be broken when circumstances demand it. That sounds like human thinking, Draz noted with a slight smile. Perhaps that's not entirely a bad thing, Dr. Mira replied. Our stability has brought peace but also stagnation in many areas. The humans might disrupt our complacency in ways we secretly need. As she left the meeting, Dr. Mira felt the weight of history pressing down. Tomorrow, the galactic community would change forever. The apology department would face its first test before it was even fully established, and somewhere on Earth, humans were about to have their perception of the universe irrevocably altered. The human space station Unity orbited the moon like a delicate metallic insect, primitive by galactic standards, yet remarkable for a species so young. Inside, a delegation of Earth's leaders, scientists, and military officials waited nervously, having received the cryptic message just 7 days earlier. You are not alone. We come in peace. Prepare for contact. Meanwhile, aboard the Council vessel Diplomatic Harmony, Director Prath prepared for humanity's introduction to the wider universe. He wore traditional first contact robes, though the protocol team had modified them based on Dr. Mira's advice about human perceptions and color psychology. Remember, Dr. Mira briefed the delegation one final time. Humans communicate as much through body language as through words. They will be analyzing everything: your posture, your eye contact, the timbre of your voice. They sound exhausting, muttered Security Chief Vox. They are, Dr. Mira acknowledged. They never stop observing, analyzing, questioning. It's their greatest strength and their most challenging trait. Director Prath nodded calmly. I understand. They seek significance in every detail. As the ship established orbit alongside the human station, Dr. Mira felt a strange emotion she couldn't immediately identify. After a moment, she recognized it. Pride. Not in herself or the Council, but in humanity. These brief-lived creatures had pulled themselves from their planet's surface through sheer determination, and now stood on the threshold of a greater universe. The actual moment of first contact was both more mundane and more profound than anyone had anticipated. The human delegation, despite their obvious anxiety, displayed remarkable composure as Director Prath and the Council representatives emerged from their shuttle. On behalf of the United Nations of Earth, began the Human Secretary General, voice only slightly trembling, I welcome you to humanity's home. Director Prath bowed slightly, a human gesture that Dr. Mira had suggested. On behalf of the Galactic Council, I thank you for your welcome. Today marks the beginning of humanity's participation in a community of worlds that spans this galaxy and beyond. The formalities continued, carefully choreographed by both sides. Yet, as Dr. Mira observed, something unexpected was happening. The humans, after their initial shock, were showing neither the fearful deference nor the aggressive defensiveness that historical models had predicted. Instead, they displayed something the Council rarely encountered in first contact scenarios: genuine excitement. You mentioned other worlds. One human scientist ventured during the initial exchange. How many species are there? What technologies do you use? How do you overcome light speed limitations? Before the diplomatic team could deflect these premature questions, Director Prath did something unprecedented. He answered truthfully. Over 3,000 known sentient species inhabit our galactic community. Our technologies would seem miraculous to you now, but will soon become familiar tools. And we have not overcome light's speed limit. We have simply learned to work within it more efficiently than you have yet discovered. Dr. Mira held her breath, waiting for the protocols team to intervene. This level of disclosure during initial contact violated every guideline. Yet the humans' response was fascinating. Rather than fear or worship, they showed appreciation for the honesty. "We have so much to learn," said the human scientist, eyes bright with curiosity. "As do we," Director Prath replied, shocking the council delegation further. "Your species has developed unique approaches to problem-solving that our civilization may benefit from greatly." Later, aboard the Diplomatic Harmony, the protocols team was in an uproar. Director Prath completely disregarded established first contact procedures, fumed the team leader. He treated them as equals. "Precisely," Dr. Mira said quietly. "And that's why it worked. Any other approach would have triggered their defensive instincts." Despite the controversy, the initial contact had gone better than anyone dared hope. The humans had accepted the reality of galactic civilization with remarkable adaptability. Director Prath had established a rapport that no protocol-bound diplomat could have achieved. As the planned cultural exchange began, Dr. Mira found herself approached by High Counselor Draz, who had observed remotely. "Your apology department," he said thoughtfully. "I believe I understand its true purpose now." "Oh?" Dr. Mira raised an eyebrow. "It's not just to apologize for humans to the galactic community," Draz said. "It's to apologize to humans for how poorly we might have introduced them to it." Dr. Mira smiled. "Perhaps we'll need to apologize to each other less than we feared." As the Earth rotated below them, humanity's first official step into galactic society continued. The apology department stood ready, but for now at least, no apologies were necessary. Only possibilities stretched before them, as infinite as the stars themselves.